Hi there, I'm Victoria, and I'm 28 years old. My grandfather's funeral was intended to celebrate his life, but it turned into the most embarrassing experience I've ever had. I watched in disbelief as my relatives picked apart his legacy like vultures, while all I received was an envelope with a plane ticket. Where are you tuning in from today? Please share your location in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever felt disregarded by your family. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happened next. The reading of Grandpa Thomas's will was held in his lawyer's richly furnished office downtown. My mother, Diana, sat elegantly in her black Chanel suit, dabbing her eyes with tissues that were perfectly dry. My father, David, kept glancing at his Rolex, clearly planning how to spend his inheritance. My brother Adrian lounged as if he owned the place, while my cousin Jennifer whispered calculations to her husband. Mr. Morrison, Grandpa's longtime attorney, cleared his throat before starting to read. To my son, David Thompson, I bequeath the family shipping company and all its assets. Dad's face lit up like it was Christmas. The business was valued at a whopping $30 million, easy money for him. To my daughter-in-law, Diana Thompson, I leave the family estate in Napa Valley, complete with all furniture and artwork. For the first time since the funeral, Mom actually smiled. The estate was worth around $25 million. To my grandson, Adrian Thompson, I bequeath my collection of vintage cars and the penthouse in Manhattan. Adrian quietly celebrated under the table, knowing those cars were worth a fortune. To my granddaughter, Jennifer Davis, I leave my yacht, Isabella, and the vacation house in Martha's Vineyard. Jennifer shared a delighted squeeze with her husband. Then, Mr. Morrison paused and turned to look at me. My heart raced as all eyes went to me. This was the moment. Grandpa and I had a special bond. He taught me chess, took me sailing, and shared how he built his empire from scratch. Surely, I'd receive something of value. To my granddaughter, Victoria Thompson, Mr. Morrison continued, I leave this envelope. That was it. Just an envelope. The room burst into awkward laughter. Mom even chuckled and patted my knee in a patronizing way. I'm sure there's something meaningful in there, sweetie. Maybe a lovely note, but I could see the amusement in their eyes. Poor Victoria, the granddaughter who spent every summer assisting Grandpa with his business and listened to his tales of Monaco and Las Vegas, was left with an envelope while everyone else got millions. Aoka Natoim, Mom chimed in, barely holding back her laughter as she awkwardly tried to use Portuguese. I guess your grandfather didn't love you as much after all. Those words hit me hard. After 28 years of family gatherings, of being the dependable one who helped everyone, this is how they saw me, an afterthought, a leftover. Adrian leaned in, grinning. Maybe it's Monopoly money, sis. Sounds about right for your luck. I clutched the envelope, my hands quivering. I could sense something more than paper inside. It didn't feel thick enough for a check, but there was definitely something else there. Jennifer chimed in from the other side of the room, don't look so glum, Victoria. I'm sure Grandpa left you something suitable for your status. Her tone said it all about my so-called status. I stood up abruptly, the leather chair creaking as I did. If you'll excuse me, I need some air. The laughter followed me out into the hallway. I could overhear Mom saying to someone, she's always been so dramatic. Thomas probably left her a lovely little keepsake or some advice on snagging a husband. In the elevator, I was alone except for the reflection in the shiny steel doors, and I finally opened the envelope. Inside was a first-class ticket to Monaco, dated for next week, along with a single line in Grandpa's distinctive handwriting. Trust activated on your 28th birthday, sweetheart. Time to claim what's always been yours. But that wasn't what took my breath away, it was the other item in the envelope. I discovered a business card with elegant gold lettering that read, Prince Alexander de Monaco, Private Secretary. On the flip side, in Grandpa's handwriting, it said, he's managing your trust. Then there was a bank statement from Credit Suisse addressed to Victoria R. Thompson Trust. The balance was enough to make me dizzy. $347 million. I stared at the numbers, recounting the zeros repeatedly. My hands trembled so much I could barely hold the papers. This had to be a mistake, some kind of clerical error or a cruel joke, but the letterhead was authentic, the account numbers looked real, and Grandpa's handwriting was unmistakable. When I returned to my apartment that evening, I dialed the bank's international contact number displayed on my statement. After 3 transfers and answering a myriad of verification questions, a fluent English-speaking Swiss banker confirmed the incredible news. Yes, Miss Thompson, your trust was established when you turned 16 and has been professionally managed for a decade. Your grandfather was quite clear that the activation date aligns with your 28th birthday, but I never signed anything to initiate a trust. Your grandfather set it up as the settler, and as a minor, your consent wasn't necessary. The trust has been yielding returns and reinvesting profits from multiple international business ventures. The phrase business ventures sent shivers down my spine, reminding me of all those chess matches where Grandpa would speculate about various business scenarios, asking for my thoughts on hotel management, customer service, and market strategies. I always thought he was just making small talk. What type of business holdings are we talking about? I inquired. I'm unable to discuss specifics over the phone, Miss Thompson. However, Prince Alexandra will brief you on your assets in detail when you arrive in Monaco. After ending the call, I sat in my small apartment, staring blankly at the bank statement. Meanwhile, the family group chat was buzzing with photos showcasing everyone's new inheritances. Adrian had shared images of car magazines, while Jennifer was already browsing real estate listings in Martha's Vineyard. Yet, no one even mentioned what was in my envelope. The next morning at breakfast with Mom and Dad, I mistakenly revealed my plans. I'm considering taking that trip to Monaco, the ticket Grandpa left me. Dad nearly coughed on his coffee. Monaco? Sweetheart, that's probably going to cost you thousands in accommodations and expenses. You know your teaching salary won't cover that kind of vacation. I thought about the hidden bank statement in my purse. The ticket is first class and already paid for. Mom laughed dismissively. Victoria, dear, Monaco is for people like, well, people with real money. You'd feel completely out of place. It's all casinos and yacht parties and designer everything. If only they knew. Maybe she could snag some great Instagram photos, Adrian chimed in sarcastically. Show her students what true wealth looks like before she returns to her little classroom. My cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but beneath that, I felt something else emerging, knowledge. Power. The realization that I wasn't the poor relation they all believed I was. Maybe Grandpa had a reason for sending me there, I said softly. Oh dear, Mom sighed dramatically. Your grandfather was 93, his mind wasn't as sharp toward the end. But I recalled those conversations distinctly. Grandpa had been as sharp as ever, discussing business deals and investments right up to his final week when he mentioned Monaco and Las Vegas, talking about them with the familiarity of someone who genuinely knew those places. Later that afternoon, I decided to take a sick day at work and spent hours digging for information. Prince Alexandre de Monaco was both real and reputable, and according to financial journals, managed several $billion in international investments for high-net-worth families. Apparently, I was part of that group. Now, the evening before my flight, I packed my finest dresses along with every ounce of confidence I could muster. Mom called one last time to try and dissuade me. Victoria, you're making a mistake. You could use that ticket for something practical. The ticket's non-refundable, Mom. Then at least promise me you won't embarrass yourself. Don't announce that you're Thomas Thompson's granddaughter and expect any special treatment. I hung up without making any promises. As I double-checked my luggage, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror. 28 years old, brown hair, average height, nothing remarkable, according to my family. Yet Grandpa had seen something unique in me. He often told me I had his eyes, his business instincts, and his relentless determination. Tomorrow, I would discover if he was right. The first-class cabin of the Air France flight to Monaco was a completely new experience for me. The flight attendant greeted me warmly as Miss Thompson, offered me champagne before takeoff, and ensured I had everything I needed for the 11-hour journey. As we soared over the Atlantic, I found myself trying to grasp the true significance of the bank statement. $347 million wasn't just money, it represented power, security, and freedom, the ability to live without worrying about rent, car payments, or student loans ever again. Upon arriving at the upscale airport, I anticipated grabbing a taxi to Monaco. Instead, as I navigated customs with my luggage, I spotted a man in a sharp black suit holding a sign with my name on it, not just Victoria or Miss Thompson, but Miss Victoria Thompson, beneficiary of the Thompson International Trust. I could barely keep my legs from giving way. The driver was courteous yet formal as he placed my luggage into a spotless black Mercedes. As we cruised along the scenic coastal highway towards Monaco, he engaged me in conversation, his English laced with an accent. "Is this your first trip to the Principality, Miss Thompson?" he inquired. "Yes, it's my first time." "It's stunning," I replied. "His Serene Highness is looking forward to your arrival. He has personally overseen your trusts at Monaco Holdings for several years," he continued. Monaco began to reveal itself to me gradually. First, the iconic harbor emerged, filled with yachts that were worth more than most homes. Then, the Monte Carlo casino appeared, its ornate exterior sparkling under the afternoon sun. Finally, we wound our way up streets adorned with upscale boutiques and cafes. The palace loomed at the hilltop, but instead of using the main entrance, the driver skillfully maneuvered the Mercedes through a side entry and into a private courtyard I had only seen in magazines but never dreamed of visiting. "Miss Thompson," the driver said, assisting me out of the car, "if you could follow me." We traversed hallways adorned with paintings that belonged in galleries. My teaching salary had never prepared me for such grandeur. Everything spoke of legacy, real power, and centuries of influence. At last, we paused outside an exquisite door. The driver knocked twice and opened it for me. "Miss Thompson," he announced, "your appointment is ready." I entered what could only be described as a vast private office, far larger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased breathtaking views of the Mediterranean. Sitting behind a grand desk was a man who looked just like his photographs, Prince Alexandre de Monaco. He rose as I walked in, moving around the desk to greet me. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a navy suit, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never needing to prove oneself. "Miss Thompson," he said, extending his hand. His cultured accent added to his charm. "I am Alexandra. Thank you for joining me today." Grasping his hand, I felt acutely aware of how out of place I must appear. "Your Highness, I have so many questions," I confessed. His warm smile reassured me. "Please, call me Alexander, and I have lots of answers. Your grandfather was not only a close friend but also one of the shrewdest investors I've ever encountered." He gestured for me to sit in one of the luxurious leather chairs opposite his desk. "Miss Thompson, your grandfather began planning your financial future when you were still a child. He set up the Thompson International Trust when you turned 16, with precise instructions concerning your education, both academic and practical. All those discussions about business, understanding people, and strategic thinking weren't just tales, Victoria. He was grooming you for greater things." Alexander opened a hefty folder on his desk. "Your trust currently holds controlling stakes in several prominent properties, the Monte Carlo Bay Resort and Casino, which brings in about $40 million a year, the Belmont Grand Casino and Resort in Las Vegas, generating approximately $145 million annually, along with commercial real estate in London, Tokyo, and Sydney." I stared at him, slightly agape. "Your grandfather also ensured that all tax responsibilities were meticulously managed through the trust structure. You've been receiving a reasonable stipend of $60,000 per year, sufficient for a comfortable life as a teacher without attracting too much attention. The funds in your savings account were distributed from your trust, though you were unaware of their origin. He wanted you to value hard work in everyday life before revealing your true financial standing. Everything started to click into place. I understood why I'd always been able to afford my apartment despite being a teacher, why I never stressed about money as my colleagues did, and why Grandpa exuded such confidence regarding my future. "Alexander," I asked slowly, "what's my true worth?" He checked another document. "As of this morning, the trust's net value is around $1.2 billion. I gripped the arms of my chair to steady myself. "You're a billionaire, Victoria. You always have been." The rest of the afternoon flew by in Alexander's office as we reviewed various documents that validated everything he had told me: trust agreements, property deeds, financial statements, tax records, managed by teams of professionals I'd never heard of, all working on behalf of a trust one hadn't even known existed. "Your grandfather was meticulous about the timing," Alexander explained as I flipped through the legal documents. "He wanted you to experience a normal life, grasp the concepts of work and responsibility before you learned about your inheritance. But why keep it hidden? Why not reveal it to me?" Alexander smiled, his expression laced with sadness. "He knew your family well. He understood that if they grasped your true wealth, they would treat you differently. They might either resent you, try to control you, or see you merely as a source of money rather than as an individual." I pondered over the will reading, recalling their laughter and my mom's harsh remark. They truly revealed their colors. Your grandfather wanted you to realize how they genuinely felt about you before you had the ability to shift the situation. Alexandra continued, stating he believed you should distinguish between those who genuinely cared for you and those interested in your wealth. Now, you get to decide how to wield what has always belonged to you. That evening, Alexandra organized a tour of the Monte Carlo Bay Resort for me. As the general manager, Claude Dubois, guided me through the property, I had to keep reminding myself I wasn't just a visitor, I was the owner. The resort was stunning: 300 opulent suites, 5 restaurants, a vibrant casino floor, and a spa that looked like it belonged in a film. Everything was immaculate, lucrative, and utterly surreal. Claude shared that the property had maintained a 94% occupancy rate for the last 3 years as we stood on the terrace of the presidential suite. He praised your grandfather, or rather your trust, as an exceptional owner, hands-off yet always supporting quality improvements. My grandfather managed his duties remotely through video conferences with my advisory team. Despite never having worked in the industry, he was surprisingly well-versed in hospitality operations. Yet, as I realized, he had learned about those operations through me, discussing customer service, what makes people feel welcomed, and how to blend luxury with comfort. He understood what ordinary people wanted from extraordinary experiences. Later that night in my 5-star hotel, I messaged my family. The group text was buzzing with their excitement over their inheritances. Adrian was making an offer on a condo in Miami, while Jennifer planned to quit her job to become a lifestyle influencer. I couldn't help but chuckle. They were thrilled about millions, while I had billions at my fingertips. What struck me more was the realization that Grandpa had shielded me. While they indulged in immediate satisfaction, he granted me something infinitely more precious: the opportunity to discover my own strength before needing to wield it. My phone pinged with a message from Dad. "How's the vacation? Hope you're not overspending." I gazed at my presidential suite, admiring the harbor view stretching to the horizon and the bottle of champagne that surpassed his monthly car payment. "It's educational," I replied. The following morning, Alexandra organized for the company jet to whisk me away to Las Vegas. As I settled into the luxurious leather seats of the airplane I evidently owned, I contemplated how to utilize this newfound understanding. Should I rush home and unveil everything, shocking them with the truth and making them regret underestimating me? Or should I adopt a more strategic approach? I could apply what Grandpa taught me about anticipating several moves ahead. As the jet ascended above Monaco, I finalized my decision. It was time to play the game of chess. The Belmont Grand Casino and Resort in Las Vegas was even more dazzling than its Monaco counterpart, soaring 47 floors of shining gold and glass, standing tall as a testament to success. My edifice, undoubtedly. Sarah Chen, the Vegas property manager, welcomed me at the airport with a limousine that would have left my family in awe. She was sharp, professional, and utterly unaware that she was conversing with her actual boss. "Miss Thompson," she greeted as we nestled into the plush leather seats of the limo. "Your trust's representative mentioned you wanted a comprehensive tour of the property. I'm thrilled to showcase what we've created here." "How long have you been managing this property?" 7 years now. "It's been phenomenal watching its growth. Your trust has been the perfect owner, supportive of innovation while wisely managing risks." As we explored the resort, Sarah presented financial reports that left me astounded. The casino floor accounted for about 60% of the revenue, with the hotel, restaurants, and entertainment venues contributing the rest. Everything was carefully curated, profitable, and on the rise. "Your trust has been considering expansion," Sarah noted as we settled in the penthouse suite that was indeed mine. "There's interest in acquiring similar properties in Dubai and Singapore." "Really?" I tried to sound nonchalant. "What kind of timeline are we looking at?" "Nothing set in stone yet, but the initial research looks promising." "Your financial team appears confident about international expansion." "My financial team." I had a financial team. That afternoon, I spent 3 hours engaged in video calls with advisors I'd never met, yet who had managed my wealth for years. My CPA, who had been filing my taxes and maintaining the facade that I was merely a teacher receiving modest trust distributions. My investment manager, who had elevated my portfolio from hundreds of millions to over $1 billion. My legal team, who had structured everything to withstand scrutiny and safeguard my privacy. "Miss Thompson," my lead advisor clarified, "your grandfather laid out very clear instructions regarding your financial awakening. He foresaw that you might wish to take some bold steps once you grasped your situation." "What kind of steps?" "He speculated you might be drawn to strategic acquisitions, especially in markets where you have personal insights or family ties." Family ties. A thought began to crystallize in my mind. That evening, I enjoyed dinner with Sarah at the resort's premier restaurant. As we indulged in dishes that cost more per bite than what I used to spend on entire meals, I casually inquired about business acquisitions. Hypothetically speaking, I asked, if someone were to acquire a small shipping company valued around 30 million, how might that unfold? Sarah raised an eyebrow. 30 million is chump change for a trust of your size. We could arrange that through existing corporate entities and complete the acquisition in under 30 days. Is there something interesting about this hypothetical shipping company? I thought about my father's company, recalling his struggles with debt and expansion costs, and how a cash boost could resolve his challenges while giving me the control of the business I had grown up hearing about. It might be, I replied cautiously. Later that night, I reached out to Alexander, who listened intently as I presented my idea. "You want to acquire your father's company?" "I want to rescue it. Dad's been facing cash flow struggles since the expansion and is too proud to seek help. If a suitable buyer came along with the right offer, and you believe you're that buyer, I think I'm the only buyer who genuinely cares about keeping the employees employed and sustaining the culture that Dad established." Alexander paused for a moment. "Victoria, this would be your first major business decision as a billionaire. Are you sure you wish to involve your family in this?" "My family doesn't know I'm behind this. To them, it would simply be a generous offer from overseas investors." "And you're okay with that facade?" I thought about their laughter during the will reading, their assumptions about my worth, and their easy dismissal of my intelligence and abilities. "For now," I affirmed. The following morning, I flew back to Portland with a plan. I'd give my family one last chance to see me for who I truly am. If they continued to underestimate me, I would demonstrate just how costly that misjudgment could be. Back in Portland, I found myself in my small apartment, reviewing financial reports from properties globally, while my family remained completely unaware of my transformation. The contrast was almost surreal. I had spent the morning on a video call with my Dubai acquisition team discussing a resort purchase that far exceeded my entire family's combined inheritance. Now, I was gearing up for dinner at my parents' house, where they would likely ask if I had overspent on my vacation. Tonight was the family dinner, and Mom had specifically asked me to bring my laptop to assist with some basic administrative tasks regarding everyone's inheritances. She claimed I was good with computers and could help sort out their financial planning. If only she knew what kind of financial planning I had been engaged in lately. I had spent the afternoon having my attorneys draft a preliminary acquisition offer for Thompson Maritime. The findings were concerning. Dad's company was more vulnerable than I had understood. He had taken on substantial debt for fleet expansion, and while the business was profitable, it was cash poor and overstretched. A determined buyer could instigate a sale quite straightforwardly. My phone buzzed. Sarah from Vegas. Victoria, the analysis on Thompson Maritime is finished. The company fits your description perfectly. Profitable yet financially strained. Our offer could immediately alleviate their cash flow issues while providing you with a solid regional shipping operation. What kind of timeline are we looking at? We could make an offer next week, anonymously, through one of our existing shell companies. A clean transaction, favorable terms, with no obvious link to you. And if they decline, honestly, they can't afford to refuse. The company needs capital support within the next 6 months, or they'll have to liquidate assets or take on even more debt. After I hung up, I found myself staring out the window of my apartment towards my parents' neighborhood. A part of me felt guilty about my plans, but a larger part recalled every family gathering where I felt invisible. Every assumption that I wasn't astute enough for business discussions, and every instance of being treated like the family charity case. When I arrived at my parents' house that evening, the entire family was already present. Adrian was browsing luxury car websites on his tablet. Jennifer was showing Mom photos of renovation ideas for Martha's Vineyard. Dad was reading financial news, likely researching investment strategies for his anticipated $30 million windfall. Victoria, Jennifer gave me a call when she spotted me. Look who's back from her travels. How was Monaco? Did you snap a ton of photos? It was quite the learning experience, I replied, settling into my usual spot at the dining table. I can hardly fathom that you actually went there, Adrian remarked, still glued to his tablet. That place is for the ultra-wealthy. It must have felt strange being among all those millionaires. You learn to fit in, I said calmly. Dad lifted his wine glass. Let's raise a toast to Thomas's legacy. He truly took great care of our family. Everyone joined in except for me. I remained seated, hands clasped, observing their celebration of inheritances that paled in comparison to what I had. Victoria, Mom encouraged, where's your glass? I'm good, thanks. Someone needs to stay sharp for the management tasks. Well said. Dad smiled. Always the practical one. As they chatted about their plans, Adrian considering car purchases, Jennifer planning to quit her job, Mom wanting to renovate the Napa estate, I found myself looking at them in a new light. They weren't bad people, they just hadn't seen me accurately, relying on their limited assumptions. The real question was how they'd react when the details shifted. During dessert, Dad mentioned, the shipping company is thriving. Thomas's investment in new vessels has positioned us for significant growth. We're exploring new routes and possibly acquiring some smaller competitors. How's the cash flow? I asked casually. Dad seemed taken aback that I was inquiring about business. Well, it's manageable. We have some debt from the expansion, but our revenue forecasts are positive. What about the reserve funds for unexpected costs? Everyone looked at me, surprised. Victoria, Mom chuckled, you don't need to worry about business details. That's Dad's domain. I'm just curious. Grandpa always said cash flow is crucial for any business. We're fine, Dad insisted, though I noticed his jaw tensing. The company was stable on the surface, but I had seen the financial reports. They were barely making it month to month, just one major client loss away from serious issues. After dinner, as I helped clear the table, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Sweetheart, I appreciate your desire to be involved, but you shouldn't press your father with tough questions about his business. It's not really your expertise." I nearly laughed at that. Not my expertise? I run businesses that profit more in a month than Dad's company does in a year. Sure, Mom, I was just making small talk. I understand, dear, but let's keep business discussions to the professionals. All right then. On my drive home that night, I called my acquisition team. Present the proposal Monday morning, competitive terms, expedited timeline, all cash. And if they inquire about the buyer, I smiled as I parked my car. Just tell them the European investors prefer to remain discreet but are eager to support American maritime ventures. Not quite a falsehood. Have you ever experienced a time when your family completely undervalued your skills? How did that feel? Let me know your stories in the comments below. You'll want to stay tuned for how Victoria's family reacts when they truly understand who they're dealing with. The proposal came through on Tuesday morning. Dad rang me at school during lunch, sounding stressed. "Victoria, something unexpected has come up. The company received a buyout offer today from an international investment group out of nowhere." I feigned concern. "Is that a good thing or bad?" "Not sure. It's an outstanding offer, almost too good." I heard him shuffling papers. "But why do they want us? We're small in the big picture." "What does your lawyer think?" "That's the kicker, they want a decision by Friday." Serious investors typically don't operate on such tight deadlines unless they're committed. "Maybe they see potential that you're not aware of," I offered innocently. "Perhaps. Can you join us for dinner Thursday? I'd like the entire family to discuss this. You're great with details, and I could really use a second opinion." A second opinion? If only he knew just whose opinion he was truly seeking. Thursday's dinner had a completely different vibe from the week before. The atmosphere was serious and almost strained. Dad had laid financial documents across the dining table, like he was preparing for a strategic operation. "The offer is $45 million, Dad declared as we gathered around. "That's 30% above the company's book value." Adrian looked up from his phone, astonished. $45 million? Brendan casually. The real estate market is booming right now, and properties in prime locations consistently appreciate in value. Jennifer laughed at my suggestion, teasing, "Listen to Victoria, the investment guru. Next, she'll be lecturing us on market timing and portfolio diversification." I smiled modestly. I might have some knowledge about investment strategies. While the conversation swirled around me, I was partially tuned out. My phone had been buzzing incessantly with updates from property managers spanning 3 continents. The acquisition of the Singapore resort was progressing ahead of schedule. The London commercial real estate portfolio had appreciated by 12% in just 6 months. My net worth was inching closer to $1.3 billion, all while my family reveled in Dad's $45 million windfall. After lunch, I drove past the Thomson Maritime offices, my shipping company now, although no one was aware of that yet. I parked across the street and watched the employees come and go, individuals who were now working for me without realizing it. Suddenly, my phone rang. "Alexandra, how are you feeling about your first significant acquisition?" Grandpa set up a trust for me when I was 16. I've been a billionaire since my 28th birthday, which was last month. Dad sank heavily onto the edge of the bed. That's impossible. Grandpa acquired properties worldwide and placed them in my name through the trust. I own casinos in Monaco and Las Vegas, hotels in London and Singapore, and commercial real estate across 3 continents. The envelope you all laughed at made me wealthy enough to acquire whatever I desire. Billionaire? Mom whispered. $1.3 billion, actually, as of yesterday's market close. The silence stretched infinitely. Dad finally spoke. If this is true, and you really have that kind of money, why didn't you tell us? I almost laughed. When exactly? During the will reading when you mocked my envelope? When Mom said Grandpa never loved me? Or when you asked me to handle your emails because I was good with computers? Their silence said everything. They'd always seen me as less. You truly believed I didn't matter, I continued. So why the sudden interest? Dad tried to sound calm. Let's be logical. With this kind of wealth, there are tax and trust implications. We need to manage it responsibly. There it was, their true concern. I smiled. Actually, Dad, there is something to discuss. I opened an email. Thompson Maritime, Neptune Holdings, the company that bought your firm? That's mine. I own your shipping business now. His face drained of color. You bought my company? Yes. For $45 million, quite generous, given its debts. Why would you do that? Because I could. And because you never thought to offer it to your own family. This is absurd. Mom cried. You can't just buy your father's company. I can. And I did. Dad's voice broke. Sell it back to me. I shook my head. It's not for sale. I turned toward the door. Go home. We'll talk when you're ready to treat me like family, not staff. Alone later, I stared at the city lights from my $19 million home. My phone buzzed with congratulations, updates, and deals, but I felt nothing except peace. 3 days later, Adrian called, furious. What's going on, Victoria? Is it true, you bought Dad's business? It is, I said, sipping coffee on my terrace. Grandpa left me an empire. The envelope wasn't empty, it was a notice. Silence. We need a family meeting. We had one, I said. It was called the will reading. Victoria, come on, we're family. Were we? For 28 years, family meant you all shone while I stayed invisible. The only thing that's changed is my bank balance. You can't just expect me to take you seriously now? I cut in. I don't expect anything anymore. His voice hardened. Then I'll call our lawyers. Do that, I said, and ended the call. If Grandpa left you all this through fraud or elder abuse, Adrian began. I actually laughed. Adrian, I have the best legal team money can buy. The trust was airtight. You really want to start a 5-year court battle you can't afford? You wouldn't dare. Try me. He hung up. Within the hour, Jennifer called. Then Mom. Then Dad. All the same, shock, anger, threats, desperate attempts to regain control. I ignored everyone and spent the afternoon touring commercial properties with Patricia. If Portland was my new home, I'd invest in it. That evening, my security system pinged. All 4 of them stood at my gate like an intervention squad. I pressed the intercom. Can I help you? Victoria, it's your family, Mom said. We need to talk. Did you make an appointment? That's absurd, we're your family. The same family that laughed, dismissed, and threatened me today? Let us in, Dad said. We can fix this. A flicker of the old me wanted to let them in. But the new me knew better. Here's the deal, I said. You can come in if you listen without interrupting, make no demands, and accept that everything I own is legitimately mine. Otherwise, you can leave. A pause. Then Dad, okay. Your way. I opened the gates. They arrived in silence, trying not to stare at the chandelier or marble floors. I led them to the living room, the city lights glittering through glass walls. So, I said, crossing my legs. What do you want to discuss? Dad cleared his throat. Victoria, we owe you an apology. For what? For misunderstanding the inheritance, for not realizing what Thomas did for you. That's not the apology I need, I said. You're sorry for misjudging my money, not for how you treated me. Mom leaned forward. Honey, we love you. We never treated you poorly. Really? Was it love when you mocked me at the will reading? When you made me do admin work while you planned how to spend millions? When you laughed that Grandpa didn't care about me? Jennifer spoke up. We were shocked. We didn't handle it right. No, I said. You handled it exactly as you always did, by making me small. Adrian finally said, okay, fine. We messed up. But you bought Dad's company. That's not normal. Normal, I replied, would have been asking if I wanted in before selling it. Normal would have been treating me like family. So this is revenge? Dad asked. No. It's business. I stood by the window, Portland glittering beneath us. I bought a company from a willing seller. I moved into a house I paid for. I'm finally living life on my terms. Mom's voice softened. What do you want from us? I want you to understand that the old Victoria is gone. The overlooked granddaughter doesn't exist anymore. The woman standing here doesn't need your approval or permission. Dad's voice broke. Please. I need that company back. It's my life's work. Then you shouldn't have sold it, I said quietly. You never even asked if I wanted it. Silence fell. Outside, the city shimmered with possibility. Inside, my family finally realized the truth. The balance of power had shifted, and it would never go back. I finally told them, I want a public acknowledgement for how you treated me at the will reading. They were shocked, but a week later, apologies went public, Dad in the Oregonian, Mom on Facebook. Adrian and Jennifer on Instagram. I kept Dad as general manager, now reporting to me. 6 months later, at a family dinner, Dad admitted the company thrived under my ownership, and Mom asked if I'd bought it to hurt or help him. I said both, but ultimately it was good business. Adrian asked if I was truly happy. Yes, I said. I'm living life on my terms. Jennifer asked about her place. Depends on you. I'm open to a real relationship if you are. Dad asked me to teach him business strategy, and I agreed. Driving home that night, I reflected, 6 months ago I felt invisible, now I'm exactly who I was meant to be. I've gained more than victory, I've found myself. I said, I've discovered myself. Sitting in my driveway, gazing at the city lights, I felt finally at ease, Victoria Thompson, billionaire businesswoman, in control of her life. A year later, aboard my yacht Legacy, I reflected on how public acknowledgement from my family had opened unexpected opportunities, stakes in hotels, residential projects, a tech firm, and a net worth approaching $2 billion. At home, our monthly family dinners became genuine, thoughtful conversations. When Dad asked if I forgave them, I explained their dismissal had forced me to find my own strength, helping me realize my worth. Adrian asked to work for me from the ground up. I agreed he'd start at the mailroom. That night, Dad admitted pride in the person I'd become, not my wealth. Tears came as I recognized how Grandpa's legacy had guided me to my own value. Later, in my office, I reviewed global projects, Monaco thriving, Las Vegas expanding, Singapore planning a second tower, proof that I was not only wealthy, but fully alive in the life I had built. London was exploring sustainable development opportunities when my phone buzzed. An email from the Thomas Thompson Foundation for Educational Excellence announced its largest grant yet. $100 million to enhance STEM education in under-resourced Pacific Northwest schools. Tomorrow, I'd be photographed presenting the check to teachers and administrators, reinforcing the transformative power of education. Drafting the press release, I added a personal note. My grandfather always said the best gifts come in unexpected forms, and the unnoticed often hold the most potential. After 28 years of being undervalued, I'd learned that true worth comes from self-perception, not others' opinions. From my office, I glimpsed my parents' modest neighborhood, recognizing their kindness yet misguided views. Tomorrow's schedule was packed: a hotel chain board meeting, calls with renewable energy investors, and lunch with the mayor on affordable housing, but it would start with coffee with Charlotte, a reminder of who I was before understanding my purpose. A year ago, I was a teacher who merely received an envelope. Now, I was a billionaire philanthropist applying wealth responsibly. As I prepared for bed, I reflected on the students benefiting from the foundation, hoping they'd grasp the lesson I'd learned. The greatest gift is realizing your self-worth. Your value isn't defined by others, it's defined by you. The most meaningful inheritance isn't wealth, but the awareness of your own abilities.